Hello, children. The story which we are going to discuss today is a house is not a home. House is not a home. You can understand the difference between house and home. House is a structure made of the house building material, cement and bricks, etc. And home is something which is related to your feelings. So, house is not a home. The idea of home is greater than that of house. This story, my dear children, is about a high school child, how he feels when the situation in which he is placed is challenging, and how a growing child feels when he is placed or he finds himself in a challenging situation. That is the theme of this story. That is the theme of this story. Here you can see this story reflects the challenges of being a teenager and the problems of growing up. How does the author overcome his problems? This story is narrated by a school going child, the child who is in high school, and how he feels too much when he's faced by the problems. The problems we, of course, we'll see in the story what problems he faces, and how he finds it difficult to adapt to new situation. So the theme is this, as I have said, that the challenges which a teenager faces and how gradually he gets adapted to new environment. At the same time, how a school going child feels for his schoolmates, for his teachers, and for the environment which he gets in a school. What are his feelings towards it? That also has been made very vividly clear in this story. And when the whole situation is changed, when the school is changed and the child is placed in a new environment, how it becomes difficult for him to adapt to a new situation, new environment, and that too, if any tragedy uh, occurs in his life, how strongly it affects. He feels as if the whole existence of his is being challenged. That feeling a child gets, and that we find has been given expression in this story. This story, my dear boys and girls, is by an American author. She is based in California. Her name is Zan Gaudioso. Zan Gaudioso is an American author. She is based in California and she writes short stories. So this is one of her beautiful short stories. So with this short introduction, now we can start, and further details you will see and we will discuss during the course of the story. A house is not a home. The first paragraph runs like this. My first year of high school felt awkward. After leaving junior high at the head of my class, with all the seniority the upper grade levels could afford me, it felt strange starting over as a freshman. The school was twice as big as my old school, and to make matters worse, my closest friends were sent to a different high school. I felt very isolated. Okay, so the child was first. The child has been admitted to a high school. Okay, and this high school level is the level after the junior high school level. So now he has cleared his junior high school level and he has been admitted to a senior high school level. Okay, and now as he has he has sought admission at a high school level, he says he felt very awkward because his old friends, his closest friends, had taken admission in different high schools. Okay, and he was alone. He had no friends in this new school. So now, and in his old school, he was the senior. He was a student of a senior class. But now here in this new school, which is a senior high school, you can say, there he again is junior because there are the other classes which are uh, in which the senior students learn. So he is junior at that level. Okay, so that's why he says that uh, it felt strange starting over as a freshman, as a junior in a new school. He means to say that. Okay. Then in the second paragraph, he has given expression to his feelings. He says, I missed my old teachers so much that I would go back and visit them. They would encourage me to get involved in school activities so that I could meet new people. They told me that in time I would adjust and probably end up loving my new school more than I had my old one. They made me promise that when that happened, I would still come by and visit them from time to time. I understood the psychology in what they were saying, but it took some comfort in it nonetheless. But I took some comfort in it nonetheless. Okay, the child says that he was so attached to his old school that even if he had joined the new school, he used to go and visit his teachers, and he used to tell them that why he doesn't like his new school because he's isolated, there are no friends, and there are no teachers like the teachers in his old school with whom he was emotionally attached. And the teachers consoled him and they said, no problem, gradually you will get adapted to the new situation, new environment. And when that happens, when you adapt to the new situation or new environment, at that moment also you just come and visit us, be in touch with us. The teachers just try to console the child. That's why he says that he understands the psychology involved in the advice of the teacher. Okay, and nonetheless, in spite of that, nonetheless he uh, took some comfort in their advice when they said that you will gradually get adapted to the new situation in new school. Anyway, then he narrates what happens this on Sunday afternoon and all in this paragraph. One Sunday afternoon, not long after I had started high school, I was sitting at home at our dining room table doing homework. It was a cold and windy fall day, and we had a fire going in our fireplace. As usual, my red tabby cat is a house cat, gray or brownish in color, and streaked with stripes. There are stripes on it. Just house cat, which you have seen so many times. So, as usual, my red tabby cat was lying on top of all my papers, purring loudly. Purring sound she makes loudly and occasionally sweating at my pen. Sweating means just patting with her paw. Okay, sweating, striking or patting with her paw. Sweating at my pen for entertainment's sake. So the cat was his uh, pet cat, and he was very emotionally attached to this cat. This cat has a very big role to play in this story. That's why you just understand that how dearly he uh, loves the cat, and while he's studying at that time also the cat is with him. The cat is behaving in uh, its own manner, and he is busying himself in the studies. Okay, so they are together. Most of the time they are together. Anyway, next paragraph. She was never far from me. I had rescued her when she was a kitten, and somehow she knew that I was the one responsible for giving her the good life. That cat, it was a she cat, and she was rescued by him while she was about to enter some danger, or she might have been uh, in some dangerous situation. He had rescued the cat, and the cat knew that he was responsible for giving her a new good life, and that's why she was very attached to the narrator, who is a boy. Okay, and the boy himself also is very much attached to that cat. It was, or she was, his favorite cat. My mother kept stoking the fire to keep the house nice and warm. Stoking the fire, fire stoking, you blow the fire and the fire grows up. That is called stoking. Okay, burning, stoking. Okay, by blowing it. So my mother kept stoking the fire to keep the house nice and warm. Suddenly I smelled something strange, and then I noticed it, smoke pouring in through the seams of the ceiling. Now, this is the paragraph where you find the situation turns. It's a turning point in the situation in this paragraph. Okay, and he says that his mother was in the kitchen room, and suddenly he saw some smoke was coming through the seams of the ceiling. Seams are the seams, actually these are the joining lines of the ceiling, through which he saw some smoke. The smoke began to fill the room so quickly that we could barely see. The room became smoky, and it became hard for them to see all around. So groping our way to the front door, we all ran out into the front yard. Now they might have understood that the house is on fire. So groping means like a blind person making their headway towards the front door. They ran towards the front door. By the time we made our way outside, the whole roof was engulfed in flames, and it was spreading quickly. Roof was burning. The roof started burning, and the fire started spreading quickly to other parts of the house. I ran to the neighbors to call the fire department, while I watched my mother run back into the house. So the narrator runs to his neighbors to make a telephonic call to the fire department so that they can come and extinguish the fire. But his mother runs inside the house, in the burning house, inside the burning house, or into the burning house, because she uh, feels that there is something important inside the house which might get burnt if she doesn't get it. So she runs towards the burning house, and now she is risking herself. My mother then ran out of the house carrying a small metal box full of important documents. She dropped the case on the lawn, and in a crazed state, like a crazy person, she ran back into the house. Once she brings one metal box. In that metal box, there were some important things. Okay, and then again she runs back into the burning house. I knew what she was after. My father had died when I was young, and I was certain that she was not going to let his pictures and letters go up in flames. They were the only things that she had to remember him by. Still, I screamed at her. Mom, no. That means she enters or she runs inside the burning house second time because she wants to collect the letters and photographs of the narrator's father, who was dead, who was no more. And those letters and the photographs were the only memory for his mother, only memory of his father. Okay, and the mother was very much for those photographs, and that's why she didn't want to lose those photographs, and that's why she enters in the burning house, runs inside the burning house, risking her own life, even if the narrator asks her not to do that. Then I was about to run after her when I felt a large hand hold me back. It was a fireman. The fireman had been called. We have seen from the neighbor's house, he had given a call to the fireman. So the fireman had arrived. Okay, the fire vents, the fire brigade had arrived. So it was a fireman. He, I hadn't even noticed that the street had already filled with fire trucks. I was trying to free myself from his grasp, yelling, "You don't understand. My mother is in there." He tells the fireman that my mother is in danger. She has ran. She has ran inside the burning house, and I want to rescue her. He held on to me while other firefighters ran into the house. I knew that I wasn't acting very logically, and that if he were to let go, I would run. He was right, and that's why he was holding the narrator very tightly. That's why he was holding him tightly so that he should not forcibly or forcefully run inside the burning house, risking himself. Okay, it's all right. They will get her, he said. When the fireman found that the child, this boy, is very keen in saving her mother, he said that the other fireman will get her. You don't worry, he said. Okay, he wrapped a blanket around me and sat me down in our car. Soon after that, a fireman emerged from our house uh, with my mom in tow. He quickly took her over to the truck and put an oxygen mask on her. She might be suffocating because she was inside the house and there was so much of smoke inside the house. So she felt suffocating, and she might have been killed had she not been rescued by the fireman. So the fireman gets her out and puts an oxygen mask on her head. Okay, I ran over and hugged her. All those times I ever argued with her and hated her vanished at the thought of losing her. He loved his mother so dearly, and now as she's saved, he just hugs her, embraces her very dearly. He felt that he was just going to miss her, but somehow the fireman had saved his mother now from burning. Okay, she is going to be okay, said the fireman. She just inhaled a little smoke, and then he ran back to fight the fire, while my mother and I sat there dazed. They were dazed, they were confused, and they were unable to understand what had happened. Suddenly, how the house was on fire. It all happened so suddenly, so they were very confused and dazed. I remember watching my house burn down and thinking that there was nothing I could do about it. What could he do? Whatever was to be done, it was to be done by the fireman. Okay. Then 5 hours later, The fire was finally out. That means the fire was. It took 5 hours to put out the fire finally. Okay. Our house was almost completely burnt down, but then it struck me I hadn't seen my cat. Where was my cat? And the cat was very, very close to his heart, and he feels so much. So, here you can understand how a teenager feels for his pets. That also the author has very vividly described in this story. Many times you will find a mention of the cat by the narrator. So now he suddenly remembers that his cat has gone somewhere. She's missing. Much to my horror, I realized that she was nowhere to be found. Then all at once it hit me, the new school, the fire, my cat, all these things, they come to his mind. His new school, where he found it difficult to adapt, and the fire which engulfed his house, and his cat which is lost now. So all these things have a very great effect on his mind. Okay, and he starts feeling so much for all these things, and this situation is such a trying and such a challenging situation that he feels uh, so much. He feels so much, and he feels as if he's at the verge of losing his own life. How would he survive? How would he be pulling on in such a situation? All such thoughts might have come to the mind of the growing boy. I broke down in tears and cried and cried. I was suffering loss big time. It was a big challenging time, and he was suffering losses after losses. Cat's loss, fire, the house was gone, and in the new school, all were strangers. All these feelings come to the mind of the child. Okay. Then, my dear boys and girls, the next paragraph. The fireman wouldn't let us go back into the house that night. It was still too dangerous. Dead or alive, I couldn't imagine living without knowing about my cat. He was so attached to the cat that whether the cat was dead or it was alive, he wanted to know it. Regardless, I had to go. But in spite of it, he had to go because the fireman didn't allow him to go and search for his cat. We piled into the car. We piled into the car with just the clothes on our backs and a few of the fireman's blankets, and made our way to my grandparents' house. Their grandparents' house was in the same city, and they moved to their grandparents' house to spend the night. To spend the night. Then the next day, Monday, I went to school. Look here. Even after that tragic incident, even after that horrible incident of house burning, okay, he goes to the school next day because his mother was very keen on sending him to school. Okay, that's why he was forced by his mother to go to school the next day. It was Monday. When the fire broke out, I was still wearing the dress I had worn to church that morning, but I had no shoes. I had kicked them off when I was doing my homework. They became yet another casualty of the fire. His shoes were burnt in the fire. So I had to borrow some tennis shoes from my aunt. Why couldn't I just stay home from school? My mother wouldn't hear of it, but I was totally embarrassed by everything. His mother, his mother forced him to go to school. She didn't listen anything. He said that he won't like to go to school, but she sent him forcibly. But I was totally embarrassed by everything. He was in a very embarrassing situation. The clothes I was wearing looked weird. Weird means very inhuman and just like supernatural, unusual. His clothes looked, they had become dirty. Okay, I had no or books or homework, and my backpack was gone. Backpack means his school bag. It was gone. It was burnt. I had my life in that backpack. The more I tried to fit in, the worse it got. Was I destined to be an outcast and geek all my life? Geek. Geek means socially inept person or ill-suited person, unsuitable person in society is called geek. Socially inept, INAPT, inept, or ill-suited, ill-suited in society. So he thinks that was it written in his destiny that he would be a socially geek all my life? That's what it felt like. That in that situation it looked like that. Okay, that he would be an outcast in uh, his own society. I didn't want to grow up, change, or have to handle life if it was going to be this way. I just wanted to curl up and die. See, disaster after disaster he finds occurring in his life, and that's why he thinks that what kind of life this is. He says that he wanted to curl up his body and die. He wanted to invite death. Death he finds better than such a life, which is full of agony and discomfort. Anyway, my dear boys and girls, the next paragraph runs like this. I walked around school like a zombie. Zombie means these are the ghosts. See, if any spirit captures a human, okay, that is zombie. That spirits or the ghosts are the zombies. Okay, so I walked around school like a zombie. They move as if they are under the effect of drug, like a zombie. He says he moved around the school. Everything felt surreal. Surreal means very strange or very bizarre. 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 Bizarre or strange. That's called surreal. Everything felt very strange or surreal, and I wasn't sure what was going to happen. All the security I had known from my old school, my friends, my house, and my cat had all been ripped away. He was ripped off all these. He felt very secure in his old school, with his old friends, in his house, and in the company of his cat. But all this security was gone now, and that's why he feels so sad, so sorry, that he thinks that even death is better than such a miserable life. Death is better than such a miserable life, he feels. Then the next paragraph, here you see, when I walked through what used to be my house after school that day, I was shocked to see how much damage there was. Whatever hadn't burnt was destroyed by the water and chemicals they had used to put out the fire. After school, he visited the house. After school, he visited the house and he finds the house. It was in a very bad condition, isn't it? It was totally, it was debris were there. Debris means all burnt and broken pieces scattered. all around. Okay, and the chemicals they used to put off the fire had destroyed the remaining things. So nothing remained there. It was debris. The only material things not destroyed were the photo albums, documents, and some other personal items that my mother had managed to heroically rescue. His mother had saved these things: photo albums, documents, and some other personal items that we have seen in the previous paragraph. But my cat was gone, and my heart ached for her. Again, the narrator makes mention of the cat here. Many times he makes mention, and he says his heart ached, his heart pained for his cat. There was no time to grieve. There was no time to grieve. My mother rushed me out of the house. We would have to find a place to live, and I would have to go buy some go buy some clothes for school. Now they were in search of some place where they should live, at least temporarily, till their new house was built. Okay, and they he needed to buy some clothes for his school. We had to borrow money from my grandparents because there were no credit cards, cash, or even any identification to be able to withdraw money from the bank. Everything had gone up in smoke. So they borrow money from their grandparents and buy some clothes and other necessary things which he needed to go to school, to continue his education in school. Okay, then that week, that week the that week the rubble that used to be our house was being cleared off the lot. Now the debris, the broken, scattered things, isn't it? That was being cleared off that week. But there are the authorities, government authorities, they manage such things, isn't it? Disaster management team, they manage such disasters. So they came for rescue, isn't it? And it was being cleared off. The debris were being cleared off. Even though we had rented an apartment nearby, one apartment they got on rent, and they started living there temporarily. I would go over to watch them clear away debris. Debris, I have told you, these are the broken pieces of anything which has been destroyed. Okay. Hoping that my cat was, again, the cat here comes, you see, that my cat was somewhere to be found. She was gone. I kept thinking about her as that vulnerable little kitten. In the early morning, when I would disturb her and get out of bed, she would tag along after me, climb up my robe, and crawl into my pocket to fall asleep. I was missing her terribly. Now he remembers the past events. When she was disturbed, her sleep was disturbed, she will just go after him and she will enter in the pocket of his uh, coat or his shirt. Okay, the huge pocket. And such activities of the cat he remembers now, and he says that he missed her terribly. He missed the cat. Okay, sorry. Okay, uh, it always seems that bad news spreads quickly, and in my case it was no different. That bad news means, oh, that new boy, his house is burnt. Such news. How, what a pity for the boy who has joined the new school and his house is burnt. It's bad news. And he says this news spread very quickly. And in his case, it was true that the news was there, known by all his schoolmates. Everyone in high school, including the teachers, was aware of my plight. I was embarrassed as if somehow I was responsible. What a way to start off at a new school. This was not the kind of attention I was looking for. He was attracting attention. All were talking about him. Look, that is the boy whose house is burnt. So this was not the kind of attention he wanted to invite. Had he done some great act or some heroic act, okay, that kind of attention is different. But here they were looking uh, at him as an object of pity. They were showing kindness or pity towards him, and that's what he doesn't like. He doesn't like himself to be to be felt as a very miserable and very pitiable creature. Okay, and that's why he says this kind of attention he hated. Okay, the next day now at the school, what happens? Very strange situation he finds in the school the next day people were acting even more strange. Next day goes to school, and next day the people were acting even more strange than usual, and his watching eyes just made him very conscious. Okay, I was getting ready for gym class at my locker. People were milling around me in great numbers. They were moving around him, okay, asking me to hurry up. I thought it strange, but in the light of the past few weeks, nothing would surprise me because many surprising things he says were occurring or happening in his life. It almost seemed that they were trying to shove me into the gym. They were trying to push me, show means push me into the gym. Why? Then I saw why. Why were they so keen on pushing him towards the gym? There was a big table set up with all kinds of stuff on it just for me. Oh, when he enters the gym, there you find that on a big table, so many articles which the child required, they were on the table. How all these things came there, you see, it is there, you see. They had taken up a collection and bought me school supplies, notebooks, all kinds of different clothes, jeans, tops, sweatsuits, that is warm clothes, okay. So all these things, his clothes and his notebooks and books, etc., all were bought by the school children and the teachers. They had collected money to help the child. It was like Christmas. On Christmas, as people get gift, he thinks that he felt like that. I was overcome by emotion. Now, for the first time, this is a turning point in the life of the child. In the beginning, we have seen how the child gradually adapts to the situation. That is the theme of this story I have told you, isn't it? Now, for the first time, he becomes emotional. That how he looked at the children of the new school as strangers. The teachers he felt are the strangers, isn't it? He used to visit his own school, old school earlier, but now for the first time, he becomes sentimental and feels emotion for the children and teachers of the new school. People who had never spoken to me before were coming up to me to introduce themselves. I got all kinds of invitations to their houses. Children and the other staff members and the other people in the school, they invited him. They invited him as guests to their houses. Their genuine outpouring of concern really touched me. I was touched by their kind behavior. In that instant, I finally breathed a sigh of relief and thought for the first time that things were going to be okay. I made friends that day. I made friends that day, he says, and that is why I said it was a turning point. That day was the turning point in his thoughts, in his feelings towards his new school, towards those strangers, at least whom he thought strangers, now had become his friends. They also had feelings for him. He realizes for the first time. Okay, and this is the change in his thinking as he finds change in the behavior of the schoolmates. Okay, then 1 month is passed. 1 month is passed. A month later, I was at my house watching them rebuild it. The government or the NGOs or the other agencies, they come for rescue and rebuild the house because they had no money to rebuild their own house. So the rescuers, okay, so rescue and rehabilitation work is done by the government and the NGOs, isn't it? So they were rebuilding their house, and he says, I was at my house watching them rebuild it. And he goes to the site where his house was being rebuilt. But this time I was different. I wasn't alone. I was with two of my new friends from school. He had befriended some children, and two of them had gone along with him to the site where his house was being rebuilt. It took a fire for me to stop focusing on my feelings of insecurity and open up to all the wonderful people around me. He feels that there are wonderful people who are very helping and very decent in nature. Okay, it took a fire means to, it took a fire means became excited. He it took a fire means he took a fire means he became excited when he felt that there are wonderful people who are always ready to help him. Okay, now I was sitting there watching my house being rebuilt when I realized my life was doing the same thing. His house was being rebuilt, and he feels that his life itself was being rebuilt. Okay, house was destroyed, it was being rebuilt. His life, he had felt, was completely ruined after that disaster which had befallen him. But now he feels that my life itself is being rebuilt. I have got new friends and new sympathizers. I am in a better situation now. People love me. They are there to sacrifice for me. They are there to help me. These things he understands for the first time. So this is a change, a transformation in the psychology of the child. This is the theme related part, as I have told you in the beginning, my dear boys and girls. So this is how gradually the child starts understanding the things around him and starts adapting to the new situations. Okay, he says, while we means he and his friends, while we sat there on the curb. This curb is a edge of the stone. Curve is the edge, edg, edge of the stone edge, corner of a stone. While we sat there on the curb planning my new bedroom, I heard someone walk up to me from behind and say, does this belong to you? He was just planning his bedroom, and someone gives him a call. Somebody calls him from his back and says, does it belong to you? When I turned around to see who it was, I couldn't believe my eyes. A woman was standing there holding my cat. A woman was standing there holding my cat. And the narrator says he couldn't believe his eyes. He was feeling too much for his cat. And the cat is before him, before his eyes. What a surprise it was for him. I leapt up. He just jumped up and grabbed her out of the woman's arms. He just grabs, snatches the cat from the woman, suddenly, in excitement. I held her because you see here in the picture you can see I I held her close to me and cried into that beautiful orange fur. The cat had beautiful orange fur and the child, the narrator, cries. She starts weeping. Okay? She purred happily. She makes a purring sound from her mouth. My friends were hugging me, hugging the cat, and jumping around. It was an event of celebration because he had got his the pet which was very close to his heart. So they celebrated the event by just jumping and and expressing their joy. So they all were overjoyed, the narrator and his friends. Apparently, next paragraph, the author says, okay, apparently my cat had been so freaked by the fire. See, the cat saw the house burning, and the cat was so freaked. Freaked means she became emotionally wild. You become emotionally wild. That means you are freaked. Okay. His cat became emotionally wild. She became so freaked by the fire that she ran over a mile away. She started running. She was so scared. She was so overcome by the emotion or feeling that she couldn't understand what is happening as the house was burning. So 1 mile away she runs. Her collar had our phone number on it, but our phones had been destroyed and disconnected in the house. They were all destroyed. This wonderful woman took her in and worked hard to find out whose cat it was. She was a very kind, wonderful lady who started searching the owner of the cat. Somehow she knew this cat was loved and sorely missed. The cat was so loving, so lovely that she felt the woman understood. She was a very intelligent lady. She understood that the cat was terribly missed and she was loved by someone. Okay, and that's why she comes and returns the cat to the real owner, the narrator. As I sat there with my friends and my cat curled up in my lap, all the overwhelming feelings of loss and tragedy seemed to diminish. He was overpowered by the feelings of loss and tragedy earlier, and he says they started receding, they started diminishing, they started reducing. All the tragic feelings started diminishing or reducing. I felt gratitude for my life, my new friends. He feels very grateful for his life and for his new friends. The kindness of a stranger, the lady who had returned his cat, how kind she was. He now has a feel of that for the first time. And the loud purr of my beloved cat. My cat was back, and so I was. He says, my cat was back, and so I was. So I was means he had strayed. He had gone far away emotionally. He was thinking all negative opposing thoughts were there on his mind all the time. But now he says that he had now become his own controlled and balanced self. He has now become again his own controlled and balanced self. And that's why he says, my cat had returned, and I also had returned to my earlier state of calmness and quietness and balanced mind. equilibrium of mind. Finally, he gets into it. Okay, and there, this beautiful story ends, my dear boys and girls. During the discussion of this story, I have told you so many things. Remember all those things, okay? And there are the questions in the end of this story. I'll be giving you some additional questions also. This is the story, as I told you, by Zan Gaudioso. And there we finish this story, and that's all for today. I wish you all the best. Goodbye.